Thanks so much for asking me to come. My background is essentially one that was informed by my parents and my family. I grew up in New York City, and my parents, particularly my mother, made sure that my brother and I were exposed to all that the city, in all its wonderfulness and craziness, had to offer. But specifically, they made sure, and she made sure, that we took advantage of the cultural offerings that the city, had. So if there was something happening, like Shakespeare in the Park, or concerts, free concerts in Central Park, um, Alvin Ailey Dance Theater, whether it was theater, dance, music, drama, we were there. And I was really enthralled with music early on. So I always wanted to play an instrument. And by the time I got to junior high school, I was able to get into a band, the school band. I wanted to play clarinet, but my band leader at the time said, "We're out of clarinets. So the only thing we have is an oboe." And I'm like, "What the heck is an oboe?" I had never really heard of that instrument. And, he said, "Oh, it's a double reed. It's a woodwind instrument, just like a clarinet, and you'll love it." Well, long story short, I did come to love it. I played it for years through high school. I went to a music and art high school, and then in college and beyond. And it really helped to inform, I think, who I am, because I love culture, I love music, but I love all forms of culture. I also got into writing in school, and worked at the with the school newspaper, both in junior high, but more in high school, and then in college. And so I think my journey into journalism and into radio really was informed by those early cultural exposures, as well as my love of music and of reading and writing.
All right. So you grew up now in New York. So tell us a little bit about your New York of your adolescent. That is important because now we don't see it anymore, but you were there, so tell us about it.
Well, specifically, what would you like to know?
Anything that you see, anything that is not anything that you consider important for us is important. What do you see around you? Where did you go as a young adolescent?
Um, okay, well, I would say that, again, because of my parents wanting us to be exposed to everything, education wise, culture wise, that the city had to offer. I remember that, like, say, like in the summers when we were out of school, my parents would pack us up into my father's car, and we would go off to Jones Beach, or, Orchard Beach, some beach near the city, and hang out by the water, which also kind of helped inform my love of water. Um, we just, took advantage of the city. I lived in the Bronx, or we lived in the Bronx. So getting back and forth to Manhattan was just either a bus ride or a train ride away. By the time I got to high school, I actually went to school in Harlem. The art school that I went to was in Harlem, and so I got a chance then to really see what Harlem was all about. I took photography workshops. I was in a writing group. It really, I didn't know it at the time, other than the fact that I loved all the activities that I could find and get involved in. I took private lessons for my oboe playing, as well as theory and composition. And quite frankly, because I love music so much, I really thought I wanted to be a music composer, a writer and composer of music, both classical and contemporary. And I did, some of that once I got into both high school and college. But I think writing also was, I was doing this dual kind of thing where music was on one hand, and then reading and writing was on the other. And I was a regular participant and attendee in the local library. And then when I could get around the city even better, I went down to Lincoln Center and really, took advantage of the libraries there, as well as the main public library. So it was a rich background.
All right, that's great. And what were those things that you were curious about to read? Okay, when you are much younger now, your parents read for you. They choose what they want to read for you. But
Right.
you are grown up now. You can read for yourself. You choose what you want to read. The word is all yours. So I'm interested in that. What were those things that you first loved to read? I mean, in terms of books now, and yeah.
Um, Basically, they were fiction books. I mean, I grew up um, like most kids in the '60s, and all, and maybe even the late '50s, looking at books like the Nancy Drew mystery series. So I love mysteries. I love fiction. I wasn't much of a nonfiction reader, but in terms of fiction, whether it was by people that I eventually discovered, like say a Zora Neale Hurston or James Baldwin, or there are just a range of folks that I really gravitated towards. But fiction was my passion, and mystery was a sub passion of mine, and so I read as much as I could. In fact, it's funny you talk about growing up. Whenever we would go out anywhere, whether it was just downtown to see a play, or going from one family house to another, I'd always have a book with me, and, and folks would say, "Oh, there you go, Sonja, head stuck in the book again." So, oh yeah.
I can see that. All right, so you love book, you love literature, and here we love a lot of story. We like story sharing and all that. But I'm trying to understand now what interested you more or most about journalism. How did you get more interested in journalism? Tell us about that.
That's a good question. I guess because um, my curiosity. I was always interested in what was going on in the world, whether it was my immediate world or the larger world. And so journalism seemed, and I don't even know that I would say when I was, say, in high school or younger, that I would say, oh, yeah, I'm going to be a journalist. Because for the most part, I thought I was going to get into and stay in music and find a way to make a living as a musician. But when I really started getting a passion or having a passion for writing, um, I thought that one of the things that I loved about it was the ability to tell stories, to interview people. So that meant that I would meet all kinds of folks from different walks of life and different backgrounds, find out what their story was, and then find a way to present that story or those stories in interesting ways. So I think that journalism and storytelling, specifically, whether it was in print or orally, say for radio, um, was was something that really kind of fed my soul and allowed me to interact with people that I probably never would have interacted with.
All right. And then you also started to create content, create media content. Is that? Can you tell us something about that? What were you creating? Books, video, audio? Help us understand a bit about that.
No, not video so much. I was I probably because of my music background, it really was audio content. And I would say that that really I started concentrating on that once I was in college. I went into college as a music major, and so like I said, that's what I thought I wanted to do in terms of majoring, and then when I got out of college, moving into the industry. But my first year as a freshman in college, a friend of mine said, "Hey, you're a music major." I said, "Yeah." He said, "So you know about music?" I said, "Well, okay, a little." And he said, "Well, I have a show on a campus radio station, and I'm not as well versed in music as maybe I could be, but you are. So why don't you come and help me on the show?" And the show was called The Touch of Love. It was on a Sunday night, and it was like maybe 2 or 3 hours. It wasn't a really long period. But he said, you can help me program the music and then be my sidekick. I said, okay, I'll try it.